Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a roaring start for Donald Trump and his Liberation Day, the day in which many reciprocal tariffs are expected to go into place. We're still waiting for the official details on the countries that will be receiving the reciprocal tariffs. We know that Israel and Vietnam took away most, if not all, of their tariffs against U.S. products in preparation for the Liberation Day. And their speculation is Trump doing this to get the tariffs that are on U.S. products removed completely, or is this a more long-term strategy when it comes to using tariffs to generate revenue for the United States, which would enable us more flexibility when it comes to eliminating more taxes, allowing Trump to implement the no tax on tips. There's actually some talks about Trump maybe even upping taxes a little bit on extremely wealthy people to be able to fund the or pay for the no tax on tips, I guess, in terms of the money you're not going to be getting in revenue that the US government previously got with those taxes. But either way, now you've got Canada coming out this morning and saying, we admit we're done. We're going to get rid of all of our tariffs. We just don't want this anymore. Now they're blaming China. So they're totally caving in already. We don't know what Trump is going to do when it comes to Canada. But either way, we knew for Trump, this trade war with Canada, as long as he didn't immediately back down, was going to be a win no matter what, because Canada relies on us a lot more than we rely on them. We've got a huge trade deficit with them, which means we've got some crazy weather. You deal with this in the Midwest during this time of year, but this is remarkable with this thunder. But we've got this situation here, and we're just going to go ahead and play this with what Doug Ford is saying. But Doug Ford basically says, yes, you know what? We can't handle this. We have to remove our tariffs. But like I was saying, it was always going to be a win-win. Our relationship with Canada, they're a lot more reliant on us than we are of them. And so if Trump didn't immediately wimp out, which remember, they tried to dig their heels in, Canada did, and say, no, we're going to fight this. We're going to battle. If Trump decides to say, no, we're sticking to it, it's going to be very bad for the Canadian economy. And they realize it, and there's this threat of, remember, Doug Ford started threatening, we're going to shut your power off, or, all of this stuff, we're going to hit Republican states hard. Well, they realize, this is not going to work. This is not a long-term plan. We have to come to an agreement and maybe a renegotiation on the trade deal that we have with the United States, and it's going to be more favorable for the United States. There's no doubt about it. But let's go ahead and let's play and see what he says here.
Let's sit down and discuss this, because it's just going to hurt American jobs. I can't stress it enough. And, again, he believes he's supporting Americans. He said he was going to create jobs, create wealth, reduce inflation. It's worked the total opposite. Inflation.
But do you think it's fair that you have tariffs on a whole number of?
Well, inflation is not up. They project inflation might go up because of the rising prices, because of the tariffs. And core inflation is down, and it continues to go down. He's talking about the projections. Inflation since Trump got in is not up. And that's why I don't know why Trump is like -15 in terms of inflation. When you look at his approval, it doesn't make any sense. Inflation it's gone down. How can he be in the negatives in terms of inflation?
Products.
That's right. And we'd be willing to take those off tomorrow if he took all the tariffs off. We are not the problem. Andrew, do you know the problem?
So there he comes out and says, Trump just did reciprocal tariffs on you. Can you understand that? And then Doug Ford says, all right, we're going to take them off. We're not the problem. We're taking them off. We're sorry. We had tariffs on you guys. We're trying to protect the dairy, the farmers. We understand. Remember, they had 250% tariff on dairy. This is a huge win for Trump no matter what happens. But that's the big thing. Doug Ford says we're not the problem. And then he blames China.
Problem is China's the problem. And he's taking a blind eye to China as they continue to build their critical mineral mass. We have all the critical minerals that our great neighbors need. We have the...
Oh, no, we agree. That's why we're trying to take Greenland. We need to get the rare earths. He's right on this. And that's why we want a better deal with you guys to be able to extract minerals. That's why we're going to be renegotiating. This is true.
Energy that our great neighbors need.
I just want to go back.
That's why we're trying to annex Alberta, because we want to become energy, self-sufficient and energy independent. And so that's what... And we're going to talk about Alberta here in a second. But he's shifting the blame to China. Trump's already, he tariffed China back in 2017, 2018. Biden kept him on. Now Trump's expanded them. Now China is saying, to their citizens, you're not allowed to invest into American companies. Our relationship with China seems to be drifting further and further away, and it was something that had to happen. We can't have a reliance on China to manufacture all of our stuff. It's not healthy. They're already trying to become the #1 superpower in the world. Why would we make it easier for them? It doesn't make any sense. Although if you just factor in, the population, you can understand why they would be the #1 economy. They've got a much bigger population than the United States. But, he's trying to just shift the blame to China. Trump's already got big tariffs on China. He's expanded the tariffs. The Chinese are not happy about it. But you can see it looks like the Canadians are frazzled a little bit, and they're trying to shift blame when Trump's already got all the tariffs on China. So what's really the problem here? Well, Doug Ford comes out and says, they ask him, well, you understand why Trump is doing this? These are reciprocal. And then Doug Ford says, we're sorry, we admit we're going to have to remove all of our tariffs. We did have tariffs on, but if Trump removes his, we're going to remove ours. And that's the whole point. And maybe it's the whole point of Liberation Day. I don't know. Because again, the whole idea for Trump, and this is what he said during his campaign, was a commitment to tariffs to bring domestic production back. If the whole idea of tariffs is just to be used as like a leverage threat against these countries to have their tariffs removed against U.S. products, we can understand that, and that's a good thing as well, but those are two different things. And so Trump has come out and said, well, he's committed to the auto tariffs. They're going to stay on. We'll have to see how all of this develops, but this is a good warning sign, or this is a good early sign, not warning. It's a good early sign on Liberation Day in terms of, again, we don't know what Trump wants to do. It depends the avenue he wants to take in terms of the strategy behind tariffs. Trump has said that tariffs could generate, the White House said around $600 to $700 billion. It's probably, if you're doing 25%, $300 billion, $400 billion in revenue per year, which is a big number. It is, especially when you're talking about a $2 trillion deficit. You've got the Department of Government Efficiency saying they can take away $1 trillion. And especially when you're talking about the no tax on tips, all this stuff has to be paid for, and you're already working at a deficit. So you have to make it up somewhere in terms of the revenue. And so maybe you can do it through tariffs in a way. Yes, tariffs will potentially raise prices for a short period of time. And I've said it's going to happen. It is what it is. There's a messy part of it, and that's what we're dealing with right now. And I also do want to take a look at this really quickly just to see how this is reacted to. This is not bad at all. So the market, at least right now, I don't think Trump's officially announced the tariffs. Right now it's like 11:30 a.m. So we'll have to see if he officially announces them. But you've also got this Danielle Smith saying and admitting that we're going to talk to Albertans. If Mark Carney wins, she may hold a referendum to exit Canada. This is real. No, I agree. This is serious, and it is possible when you look at Western Canada and how much they dislike Eastern Canada and how much they dislike this current Liberal Party and the approval rating of it, and you've got all of the different leftist parties in Canada now coming together behind Carney to help him win. There's going to be some very angry people, and I've talked about the Alberta situation, but I'm just saying, now you've got their own premier saying we're coming to the table. We're going to hold a focused study and a focus group to discuss whether or not we should have a referendum if Carney wins. That's how serious it's getting. And remember, it's like 60%, 40%. 40% already want to leave and be independent. 20% of those want to join the United States. Imagine what happens if Carney wins. Now, I think for sure if they have a referendum, there would have to be a lot that got worked out behind the scenes before this happened, because if you're Alberta, you would want some type of, I would imagine if you're going to leave Canada, some type of very solid foundation of a relationship with the United States, whether that's an economic partnership or whether that's joining the United States outright as a territory. But so there's a lot that has to happen for them to leave. But the first step would be Carney winning. And then there's a focus group, and then there's potentially a referendum that's held. And listen, again, if it's 40% want to leave right now, if Carney wins, we can't predict exactly where that number is going to go or how the situation will work out. But then that becomes a Trump really negotiation with the people of Alberta and saying better taxes. You get to keep all of your, well, actually, we would be trading with them, but they would be, part of the United States, so it would be free. But there would be better taxes. There would be a 1-for-1 exchange rate, Canadian USD. You would get a lot more in terms of benefits by joining the United States. And the United States would love to have Alberta. They're conservative, especially the Trump administration. You'd love to have Alberta. So this is a situation to where both sides can really benefit from it, but it's going to take Carney winning. That's what I would say in terms of that. So that's really the update when it comes to US and Canada. Now Canada is saying, we're going to remove all of our tariffs. We're sorry. We tried to use the propaganda. We tried to manipulate liberals in the United States to do this. Liberals bought it. They started rabidly saying, oh, tariffs are terrible. We have a great trade relationship with Canada. And I agree. We do have a good relationship with them, but we can get a better relationship with Canada, or we could just decide to domestically produce things. But I agree. We need lumber. They have good quality wood. But what it comes down to is we don't want to be ripped off by Canada. And even if we're not ripped off, we want an even better deal and access to more minerals, and we want all the tariffs removed. And so that's probably the renegotiation that would happen. This is if Trump wants to do it. I think with Canada, I would probably treat Canada differently than a country like China or the EU, just based off of the location. And so I think Canada needs to, we would like to have a good relationship with Canada in terms of the trade, but we need to get a proper deal that makes sense for the United States relative to our power. And so when we've got this much power over Canada, that allows us to demand a very good deal if that's what Trump wants to go for. Or he might just say, well, no, we want all domestic production in the United States, so we're going to keep these tariffs on. And it would really crush Canada. And that's when you talk about Trump really going to economically destroy Canada to the point where they tap out and say, all right, we have to join the United States just to have these tariffs removed, but I don't want all of Canada. I think a lot of conservatives don't want all of Canada. That's why there's this talk of Alberta. That's why there's talk of maybe Saskatchewan and maybe just Western Canada with British Columbia and Manitoba. It's not all of Canada. We don't want that because that's a lot of liberal voters you're adding to the voting base. So we'll have to see what happens, but this is really what we thought. Canada already is tapped out on in the morning, and we'll see what Trump wants to do. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Links to that's always in the description.